Title Update 8.5 went live this morning for the Division 2, and with it a whole host of changes, some which the gamer base has been asking for, while others not so much. I'm here to give you a quick breakdown of the patch notes from today's update and interject some of my opinions in as well, so here we go. What's going on, agents? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and first of all, I hope you are all doing well and staying safe out there, as it is truly a scary time. And remember, as always, if you like the content you see on my channel, please take just a second to smash the sub button and click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from my YouTube channel. And with that, let's begin. Update 8.5 dropped this morning, and in this patch are a few main items and a whole bunch of other secondary fixes, but I'm going to cover them all. So after looking over the entire patch notes, there are quite a few gear talent fixes, including the inconsistency of the Striker's Gamble stack acquisition and how it was not proccing correctly. Now, I personally acquired my Striker's gear set and put it in my stash after about an hour of using it for this very reason. So I, for one, am excited to see if this was completely fixed, as Striker's is a beastly DPS gear set if functioning properly. The tip of the spear gear set was fixed so that the aggressive recon and crossbow expert talents can't proc inside a DZ safe house or DZ control points. Now, this was essentially generating specialized ammo in the DZ, which now doesn't allow for specialized weaponry to be used. So players could stand in the DZ checkpoint, wait for their specialized ammo to completely fill up, and then exit the checkpoint and use their special weapon versus other players, which was completely annoying. The BTSU gloves were fixed because if you looted them from certain sources, they would roll with terrible attribute rolls. And you probably saw some of these posts over on Twitter where players were finally getting the gloves to drop and then seeing that the attribute rolls were literally as low as they could possibly be. And I feel bad for anyone that had to experience that one. The hardwired gear set had some work done on it as well, as the short circuit talent was not restarting after the cooldown had expired. And this was causing the cooldowns to not take the proper times to reset, and it was one of the biggest reasons I put hardwired in the stash until it could get fixed. And finally, the True Patriot gear set was fixed, as it was causing players to receive self-damage when killing an enemy player with the full flag debuff active. Now, I personally never took TP into the DZ, but that would absolutely drive me up the wall if I was receiving self-inflicted damage just for equipping a gear set. Also included in the bug fix section were several patches for players not being able to revive down teammates. In both, they weren't able to do so at all, or the revive UI disappeared if the player was killed too fast. Personally, this was a fix I had high up on my list, as not being able to pick up teammates on heroic and legendary difficulty was maddening. You had to either clear the room and hope that they respawned, or have them drop group and wait for them to log back on, and that didn't always work out. The infinite ammo glitch was included in this update, and apparently it has been fixed, and I am really holding my breath here, as it seems that every time Massive patches one game-breaking issue, another appears. But you know, who knows, maybe this is the exception. Checkpoints were installed for heroic difficulty DARPA Research Lab and Pentagon missions, just in time to try to beat 18 minutes on DARPA Heroic for the latest League challenge. Now, I haven't attempted either today, but is the Pentagon mission still bugged at the beginning with the elevator doors not opening properly, forcing you to run the first few seconds of the mission and then fast travel back to the beginning and restart because another door is locked? Perhaps someone can let me know in the comment section if that is still a known issue. And finally, the Joyride weapon skin can now be applied to the Stinger LMG, League reward caches being contaminated when leveling up in the Dark Zone, players being able to gain more Operation Dark Hour keys than intended, and Seasons level 60 and 65 rewards being incorrect under certain circumstances were all addressed in this patch. In addition, Hounds were removed from the Manning National Zoo mission to prevent them from getting stuck up on the roof, and this is a temporary fix until a proper fix can be introduced in Title Update 9. There were only two gameplay changes in this patch, with the first being that control points can now be reset by changing global difficulty, while changing directives will not reset them. Now, I haven't had much time to farm control points, but I can see how this would have really annoyed those of you who like to clear them all and then change difficulties to farm them again. always on the hunt for those blueprints and perfect loot drops. Now, the second gameplay fix was a League UI change to make switching between Week 1 and 2 more intuitive. A number of balance changes were included in Title Update 8.5, and let me just run down these briefly for you now. The indestructible Black Tusk support stations are first up, as they now have a decreased heal tick rate from 1.5 to 2 seconds, can only provide 1 overheal per NPC, have their heal amounts capped, will no longer heal under EMP or disrupt effects, and will check line of sight between support station and NPCs more frequently. Now, all I can say here is that for anyone that has taken on legendary difficulty, me included, will welcome these changes, as these heal stations could absolutely wreck an attempted clear, especially if the medics place them down overlapping each other. Both Black Tusk Warhounds were modified, starting off with the Grenadier type, which now has an increased wind-up warning of the dreaded triple shot, has an increased delay between triple shot volleys, and has a slightly increased cooldown of moving shot. The Minigun Warhound has had its behavior modified to flank less frequently and to maintain more distance to players, has had its pathways changed to path further away from players, has had its 360 spin notification warnings raised from 2 to 2.5 seconds, has had its 360 spin rotations lowered from 3 to 2 spins, and had its 360 spin range reduced from 70 meters to just 30 meters. Now, that's a huge amount of changes to both Black Tusk Warhounds. Some of these are minor, but for me, the issue with the Grenadier triple shot has been that I receive no audible warning at all. I mean, there is nothing, and then it just starts firing away on heroic or legendary, and that's just a one-shot kill. The Minigun Warhound rotations is a solid change, but the range nerf will be huge. That was my biggest issue with it, as it could push out huge amounts of damage to insane ranges and through many types of cover, and even around corners where you would swear it didn't have line of sight on you. Now, I will look forward to seeing how these changes have affected the Black Tusk doggos. Tank NPCs were also modified so that they don't rush directly at a hive next to a player, have had a reduction to their threat limit so they don't switch targets too suddenly, and the Outcast Incendiary and Molotovs have been changed, and that their tick damage and durations have both been lowered slightly. Now, the fire tick damage really needs to be addressed, as the Outcast and Cleaners can literally melt you on any difficulty with their devices, and even when I have run with my tank build, I can't seem to put out the flames fast enough to attempt a semi-quick heal. For a while now, it has been this. Okay, if somebody gets caught on fire, they're gonna die. That's just the end of the story. The Pentagon bosses have been included in this patch, with the drone helicopter receiving reductions in health and damage. The boss at the end of the DARPA mission, Brenner, has received slight health and armor reductions, his mortar damage has been reduced, and the armor on John Architect Figs has also been reduced. Now, I really don't have an issue with the quadcopter on Pentagon, even on Heroic. As long as you stay in cover and use wise tactics, it can be downed. Of all of these nerfs, Brenner was the most interesting, as for me, he feels like the strongest single boss in the game. He can one-shot you from any range when he is using his rifle, has those insane mortar barrages, can heal, and when he finally comes down from his perch, rushes you without mercy with his incredible armor health strength and wicked fast-firing SMG. Mortars in general were addressed on the Coney Island and Manning National Zoo missions, with changes to the UI warnings and having their damage scaled down just a bit. I guess these are good changes for the game. I mean, I've always seen the impact zone indications and rolled away to avoid them, but I can see how they might have needed a bit of reductions to damage and an increase in the impact warnings. A quick patch note was made about the ever OP poison damage, and that it has now had its tick interval, damage, and duration reduced, and this was badly needed. Those poison clouds on Federal Emergency Bunker were insta-kill areas and seemed to last forever. Like fire, if you were poisoned, you pretty much knew you were going to die. And finally, skills and how they were really ineffective and seemed to be completely numb to their surroundings were addressed, with the assault turret now receiving improved auto-targeting to better prioritize which NPCs it can shoot and which are close to it. Now, also in here, the assault drone has now received improved behavior to prevent it from becoming stuck, and the consistency of its pathing and firing lines. I personally gave up on the assault turret ever since Warlords dropped, as it seemed to not give a damn about what was going on around it and would literally let NPCs walk straight past it, instead shooting at much further targets that were hiding behind cover. The assault drone was another issue, with it constantly getting stuck and left behind in door frames and attacking all sorts of random targets with no priority. Now, rounding out the skills portion of the patch notes are changes to the EMP skills and shock effects, and that they will now do damage to several NPC skills like the jammer from support units and the nail bomb from thrower archetypes. And for all of you completion time chasers, the Dark Hours leaderboards were reset. So all in all, a small portion of these changes will impact the game in a profound way, although most of them were moderate to totally inconsequential. What I did not see here were changes to the revive hive, or how janky and completely inhuman some of the NPC movements are while in combat, and many of the clipping or getting shot behind cover issues that are currently plaguing the game. I would have also liked to have seen some fixes to the seeker mines, and that they would hopefully make them seek out the enemy NPCs instead of running wild and blowing up around me or in areas that no NPC is currently in. And finally, where are the fixes to the known issues to the DZ, like the horrid frame rate drops, the NPCs that seem to be able to shoot through walls and perfectly anticipate you peeking and are already pre-firing directly at your head, or the absolutely janky and downright broken NPC movements where they can seem to defy physics and roll around, bend, and dodge bullets like they were in one of the Matrix movies. Also, and I have no confirmation about this one, but with the several League missions I completed today, the gear drop attribute rolls look lower than normal, and that is saying something. In an hour of gaming, I consistently received gear that was average to absolutely awful, with the lowest possible attribute rolls imaginable. I mean, how are your gear drops since this update went live this morning? Are the attribute rolls lower than you remember, and does it feel like a silent gear nerf was installed and not published in the patch notes? Or is it just me? As always, I am going to enjoy reading your feedback in the comment section below. Anything and everything you like or dislike about the game is on the table for discussion, and as always, please keep it professional and civil. If you haven't yet taken the time to smash that sub button, please do so. And don't forget to click on the bell icon and set to receive all notifications from my YouTube channel. If you liked the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not with a thumbs down. If you feel like supporting me and my full-time YouTube content creation, please check in the video description for links to my Patreon account and official Buzz Boutique merchandise store. Follow me on Twitter for all my latest posts and thoughts concerning most things gaming related, with a heavy emphasis on the Division franchise. And until my next upload, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.